Alright, welcome back. So, the last video we talked about the central limit theorem and how it's, get out of here, and how it is pretty much the foundation of all of inferential statistics, okay? And the details, aren't totally necessary for your success in this class. However, knowing that the distribution of sample means is approximately normal, that's pretty much the whole basis of hypothesis testing, okay? And what is that? Well, hypothesis testing can happen in a few different steps, and I'm going to lay them out step by step in a bunch of different videos as to not bombard you with one super long video. But before we get into that, let's kind of recall what statistics is all about. Okay, so let's see. Where do I want to start first? Well, let's say that, this pie chart represents the whole of statistics. And we kind of know that over here, 15% of stats really is just math, right? Not a huge deal, right? 35% is visualization, right? Visuals, I'll just say that. So, the math component is the least, I think, it's the least important. Many people will disagree with me, and that's fine. And then the next part is visuals, right? So actually plotting your data, right? Kind of seeing what's going on. And then 50%, the other 50%, the biggest part is communication. How you communicate your findings, right? And so in hypothesis testing, we'll see that this kind of distribution of pie pieces is kind of true, right? There's a bit of math. There's some plotting that can be done. We don't have to do it. Most of the time, we've already done it, right? But how you communicate these findings is where most of the importance lies, okay? So, here's the statistical process. What we've done so far, talked about different research designs, we've talked about bias, and we've talked about maybe kind of formulating hypotheses, not in great detail, but that's the general idea in that first week, right? In the second week, we talked a lot about summarizing and visualizing data, right? So this is the mean, the median, the mode, that kind of thing. Visualizing data with histograms and box plots, that kind of stuff. And in this series, we're going to be talking about testing these hypotheses, right? Are two groups different? Is one group different than some known value or something that has been sort of the norm for a while? And then after this, we will be talking a bit about determining the size of that difference, right? Or determining whatever we found here, we want to figure out, does it actually matter, right? Okay, so let's move on. Here we go. So there is a sort of a 6-step process for developing or for doing a hypothesis test. The first thing is developing a research question, right? Oftentimes this is, sometimes it's formal, sometimes it's casual, whatever. Whereas this step 2, developing your statistical hypothesis, that is more rule-oriented. It's got some specific language that you have to use. Step 3 and 4 is more or less the math that goes into determining whether or not, this is true, right? And then your decision and conclusion, this is where sort of that communication comes into play, right? So as far as math goes, it's all right here. Everything else is all communication, right? And that's what I think is very important for you to get out of this class is not the math, because who cares? I really do not care about the math, right? I do care that you know how to do the math, but I care more about you being able to communicate findings, right, in a concise and specific way to make sure that anybody can read it or anybody can understand what's going on, right? Okay. So I will call it there, and we'll get right back into it. So see you here in just a little bit.